ladies. Hi.
Hello.
Yes, thank you. So welcome back to another episode of Perspectives with Sherry. I am your host, Sherry Ryan, and tonight we have such an amazing guest, Miss Sarah Van Eck. And listen, y'all, for all you single ladies, come to the front of the congregation because we got a lot of stuff to tell you. But in the meantime, let me give you first of all, let me give you some admin notes, and then we're gonna get into her bio, and we're gonna get into those questions. So if you're new over here, this is a safe space for women in midlife. We talk all things health, wealth, and empowerment. And if you have not yet, go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Share with a sister girlfriend because we when we get something good, we're supposed to share with our friends, right? And so listen, tonight I am super duper excited. First, let me tell you, we are kicking off our series, The Heart of It All. And y'all, I have been dying to do this. So we are talking about all things relationships. So we're talking marriage tips, what happens with when you're on the brink of divorce, and then like let's talk about also like midlife when you're out there trying to get at it and get to dating, and that's a weird space, and how to navigate all that. So I got it for y'all, honey. If you want to know about it, stay here. We got you. And I have an amazing expert here, Miss Sarah Van Eck. She is the author of Stop Hating Dating and Start Being You. Yes, y'all, listen. And she shares a practical approach to overhauling your dating experience by lifting your self worth, ladies. And once stuck in people pleasing, she now speaks openly um, about embracing your uniqueness and attracting your kind of people by being you. So I would love for you guys. I have the banner. If you look below in the banner, that you can follow her on Instagram at Sarah Self Worth, or you can also follow her on Facebook at Sarah Van Eck Author. So if you're listening on the audio podcast, I will have all that info for you in the show notes. So no worries. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to this one.
Yes. I literally could not wait. I've been excited all day. So,
That's so
all right,
funny.
we're gonna get. I'm
It's
sorry.
8 in the morning. Sorry, it's 8 in the morning here, so it's so funny because I like got up early, got ready, and you're like, I've been excited all day. We're the opposite ends of the world. I love it.
I know. And you know what? That's what I love about this platform because women all over the world, listen, we all have the same issues and problems. And so, listen, ladies in the US, Miss Sarah over here, she got you. And she's all the way in the UK. So, what's good? Listen, she's up early to give you her wisdom and her gems. So, please pay attention. Actually, get a pen and paper and write down some of these notes, ladies.
Thank you.
Yes. So, okay, Sarah. So let's get into it. All right. So, your title of your book, mm, Stop
Punchy.
Hating Dating, Start Being You, is a revelation. What personal realization birthed that message?
Oh, stop hating dating. I think a lot of people can relate to that. A lot of people are getting frustrated and worn out by the dating situation, and you can sometimes feel a bit like you're not in control of it. And so I wanted to kind of give people their power back and say, hey, like this is something, an action you can take, because I'm writing for the people who feel like they need to take action and they actually don't, but they're the people that I'm going to connect with because that's how I felt as well. I felt like I needed to take action. And Start Being You was a big revelation for myself because I actually realized people liking me wasn't the outcome I actually wanted, because sometimes people will like me for something that I'm not. And then that's actually worse than being myself and not being liked.
Right.
So yeah, the revelation kind of came around when I was in a relationship where I'd kind of trapped him because I was being everything I thought he wanted me to be, and then he liked me for it, And then as soon as I started to show who I really was, he started to pull away. And that's actually a really good thing. And I had to realize that because at the time it obviously felt very heartbreaking and gut wrenching. But the bigger cost of not being myself would have actually been worse.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I feel that totally. And I'm so glad that you're speaking to it in this perspective because so many women, even myself, before I finally got it right, you do like you send your representative, and yeah, you know what I mean. And then it's not sustainable that way. You have to be yourself. And if the guy is going to love you, like you, whatever, you have to be totally you. So you have to be able to feel comfortable to unveil yourself. So I love that, what you said. So let's talk about performing for love. Um, what does that look like? And why do so many women fall into the trap of needing to be chosen? Those pick me's, honey. Please.
uh, I think a lot of us do have this sense of unworthiness in ourselves. We feel a sense of unworthiness, like we're not worthy of being loved by people, and it can come from, you know, the social standards that we have for women in the world. This ever growing list of things we need to be able to do and achieve and be and look like. But it can also come from trauma in our past, trauma in our childhood as well, and getting the sense that we didn't have love and we take that on as something we need to do differently because we're in survival mode when we're a child, right? We're looking for connection. We know we need connection to survive. So we're driven to do whatever we need to do to achieve love. But you can't achieve love. Love isn't something you earn, it's something you receive. And that was such a big shift for me because I think in our world at the moment, we are told we need to take control of things, we need to work hard, things require us to take action to get what we want. And we think if we have a problem, we need to solve it by doing more.
Right.
But you can't earn love, you receive it. And love is like, if you look at it from this cute little metaphor that I came up with, well, actually, I think I got this one from Chat GPT, I'll be honest. um, love is like sunshine. If someone has love to give, they're shining, they are expressing their love, and you can be in that presence and receive it, but it's not something you can make happen. You can't come out there and make the sun shine on you. And if you look at love that way, you're not then trying to earn love.
That's good. That's really good. Okay. Yep. I received that. Um. All right. So now we're gonna move into talking a little bit about dating burnout and validation cycles. So, what's actually behind the dating burnout so many midlife women feel? And is it really about men or is it something deeper?
I think it does tie back into our lifestyles at the moment and this need
Hmm.
to solve things, this need to do things. And women are also conditioned to be polite. We're conditioned to be desirable. We're considered, you know, we need to make the people around us happy, right? So we end up quite often falling into a lot of people pleasing patterns, doing what we think is required of us. And although that can be tiring because you're in doing, it's actually more tiring because you keep abandoning yourself. And when you have self abandonment, you get worn out and you get tired because your needs aren't being met. You're constantly putting yourself at the bottom of the list, and you're constantly trying to be external instead of topping up your own cup. And I think that's why a lot of us get so exhausted because we're constantly giving and doing, and we're not sitting back and having a moment of receiving. And I think it comes back to thinking that someone not choosing you is a problem that needs to be solved, and it's absolutely not.
Yeah, I know. I totally feel you. Totally feel you. Um, so let's talk about the unspoken fear. Am I too much?
Mm.
Or not enough, or not enough. So, how does that identity crisis show up in dating?
I want to ask you how you if you've ever felt this as well, because I definitely have. So I'll circle back to that. But when we're dating, we are often thinking about outcomes. We're thinking about the outcome of dating. So you want to be in a relationship. Or the other outcome of dating is you no longer see each other, which is so confronting as a relationship type when you're dating someone, because it's not like that with friendships, right? You can be around your
Nope.
friends and it's not so binary. It's not so we're either together or we're not. It's so black and white with relationships, because in our society, it's normalized to have one partner, right? So you have to be everything for that person. You have to be perfect. And if you're not going in that trajectory, then you're done. It's like one or the other. So, of
Mhm.
course, it kind of makes sense that we would think staying in the race longer, so not getting booted out, is a better outcome, right? We're thinking about the longer term. We're like, okay, I just need to kind of stay around this person as long as I can. Like, staying in the race longer is a good thing. And again, it's actually not, because you end up wasting your own time because you're staying around people who are liking this version of you that you're showing up as, which isn't even you.
Yeah, for real, for real.
And have you
Listen,
done this?
yeah. So for me, transparent moment, guys. In 2013, my first husband, and I separated. I was 40 years old, and I had three teens, and I took some time for me, which I think everyone should, to heal and to, figure out me and like what I wanted to do and how I wanted to navigate. So when I finally got a chance to decide that I wanted to date, I get out there and yeah, I had a lot to learn. But you're right, because listen, I am a lot. I'm a whole lot, honey. And listen, and I met some, I will say, to be honest, I really didn't have any really major horror stories, but I will say that the guys that I met, like, they just weren't ready for the kind of woman I am. Like, I'm accomplished. I am a goal getter. Listen. I have this vision of my life, and it's still not done. I'm 52 years old. I still got things I want to do, honey, and accomplish.
100%.
Right. And so, I am a lot. And when meeting these guys, they were looking for something maybe different, maybe a little more toned down. And some were like, I'll take you as you are because, some of them found me attractive, God forbid. Um, and they were like, okay. But my thing is this: when someone is perfectly aligned with you, it's not hard, right? So, like, as much as I am, when I met my husband now, when we actually met on a dating site, um, he was so cool with it all. I am a lot. I come with a lot of, I use humor a lot. That's how I kind of like express myself. And he thought it was funny, and it is a lot. My children, there was a lot of backstory there. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that everyone should be, when you're trying to date, you should be honest, and you should, not dumb yourself down or shrink yourself. Be who you are, ladies. And the right man is gonna be okay with it. And I tried that on with a few. Some were, some weren't.
Mm.
The ones that were, some of them weren't okay. But when I finally met my husband, we had that instant connection. We knew. Like, I literally knew within, like, it sounds crazy, and I hate to say this because I don't want everyone to think that's going to happen that way. But literally within that first meeting, I knew. I so knew. But that doesn't happen for everybody. So don't think that if you go in and you have your first date, you don't have a feeling. But for me, it was. But yeah, uh, I won't shrink myself for anyone, and I don't think you should. And he was okay with all my crazy, all my goals, all my visions, all of my energy. Right. So yeah. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love that. And I think when you said that you felt it when you met him, I think, again, it's about trusting ourselves, right? And knowing how we feel when we're around that person. How are they showing up, and how is that allowing us to show up? And
Yeah.
that's exactly why we need to be ourselves as well, because when we're being ourselves, we're allowing them to show up in a different way that they can feel comfortable in as well. So that's such a beautiful story. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And let me also add, to add what you said, Sarah, you're right, because if you don't show up as yourself, and he felt comfortable because I gave him all I had, right? And if he wasn't okay with that, then he would have shrunk back, or we wouldn't have had another date. I want women to know, show up as yourself, because if you don't, um, and this guy thinks that he's the one for you, if you're not fully giving yourself out there. I'm not saying like tell all your business. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying be 100% you. Don't say your representative, honey. Be you. You know what I mean? Like that day, particularly, my son, my middle child, had a party to go to. I had a raggedy car. I had no AC. It was hot. I had to take him to his party. I didn't have makeup on, and I almost canceled. I was like, "Oh my god, I look horrid."
Oh, no.
But like something in my spirit said, "No, Sherry, go." And I was like, "All right, ugh, I look crazy, but it's okay." So I walk into. We went to Applebee's for lunch. Yeah, and the server. I come in, and the server like gives me the thumbs up, like, "Girl, go sit down." He
Chill.
was yes, he was this guy. He was gay, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna trust you because you feel me, right?" He was like, "Girl, go sit down." I was like,
You got a real man here. Yeah, I
"Okay,
love that.
yes." And when he stood up, my husband is 6'4", honey, of chocolate loveliness, and I was like, "Okay." So happy. So what I'm saying, had I had leaned into myself, which would have been like, "Girl, you look crazy. You don't have no makeup on. It's hot. Your car is raggedy. You have to take your son. He's getting on your nerves." And had I not shown up, then I would not be sitting here with Miss Sarah telling y'all I am happily married for 7 years. Listen, it works.
Oh,
Okay.
and even more to that, right? Let's just say you turned yourself away and said, "I'm not going to go because it's really important that I look perfect and my hair
Right.
did, all that." And then you see a guy and he's like, "Oh, yeah, I'll keep seeing you because you look great." Do you really want to be around people who prioritize those things about you?
True
Or do you
that.
want to be around people who prioritize that you were, prioritizing your family with your son, you were keeping your commitment of a time you said you'd be somewhere, you're letting your hair down, being authentic, showing up anyway. Like,
Mhm.
you want to be around guys who appreciate those things about you, not the guys who appreciate that you look stunning, which, I mean, I'm sure your husband also appreciates that, but you don't want to be around the guys who don't appreciate, you know what I mean?
Yes, no. Perfect, perfect, perfect point. You're right. Because had that been the focus, had I felt like if I didn't go or if I showed up like in full makeup and whatever, because honey, it was hot. My makeup was sweated off. I really look, like I look like me, me, my
Yeah.
natural state. And it was enough for him. And that showed me that he was truly, amongst other things in the conversation, showed me that I felt like he was the one. But right. I mean, Sarah, you're right. Like, I think that we get caught up in the wrong, wrong, wrong things. And if we're looking for sustainable relationships, we have to get out of that mindset, because you're right. Had I prioritized, I had to look a certain way for him. Well, I don't look that way on my daily basis, honey. Then what? Yeah,
Exactly. And you want to be confident enough to know, like confident enough in your partner to know that they're going to be around even if things like that change a little bit, right? You don't want to
right.
feel on edge that I need to maintain this, as you call it, your representative uh,
Yeah,
showing up to
yeah,
keep that. And this is why I think self worth is at the heart of a lot of these dating issues for women, is because in order to do what you did, which is huge, you had to have courage and you had to believe that you were lovable as that version of you who is showing up. And a lot of women don't believe that. And if you don't believe that, then you won't be able to show up just as you are. And that's why when people say just be yourself or focus on you, they're not understanding that some women don't think they can. And the work we need to do with women is the next layer down. It's no, you are enough and you are worthy of love and you don't need to be perfect. And that's the work we need to do. Women don't need more of this advice of what they should be doing. It's like we need to talk about ourselves and loving ourselves.
Amen. Amen.
Mm.
All right. So, my next question for you, Sarah, is you share a story about having a dating roster to meet different emotional needs. So, what did you learn about self worth from that chapter? Like, I'm curious because I was like, cool. I was like, okay. So, what was that about?
Oh, yes. In retrospect, have learnt a lot about how I was showing up then that I did not see at the time. So I did have this unworthiness that I felt, and it was around a lot around my physical appearance. I struggled with my weight as a kid. A lot of the messages I had around me were, "You always need to be working out and eating better because otherwise you're going to be overweight," and all of those kinds of messages. So I was always looking for validation that I was attractive. So if someone wanted to sleep with me, I was like, yes, I am good enough. And the bar for men wanting to sleep with people is sometimes pretty low. So I was letting in, quite a few sailors that were not going to be sticking around. And I saw it towards the end as, okay, I'm a lot and I don't want to have to change who I am as I started to love myself more. But I can't seem to find a man who can meet all of my needs, who wants to meet all of my needs. So I'll just spread my needs around. I've got a guy here who, will have a nice deep chat with me before we sleep together. I've got a guy here who will watch movies with me all day because he knows we're going to sleep together during that. I had spread my needs around with all different boys, I'll call them, because I didn't think I could find one single person that could take on all of the things that I needed, all of the time that I needed, and attention and love that I needed. And I did need more of it from other people because I wasn't giving it to myself. So I was coming off it more needy. But I was never going to find the man who could meet all of my needs if the car space was taken by all these bomb cars, right?
Right.
If you've got the Porsche circling the block, but the car space is full, there's no way he can pull in and be in your life, right? And it wasn't that I kept attracting men who weren't able to meet my needs. It's that I kept allowing men who couldn't meet my needs to stay. And then there was no space in my life for the men who could. And this is where your belief of no one can ever meet my needs, there's no good men out there, gets reaffirmed by your actions.
True that.
And it becomes a cycle, yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally believe that. Or and particularly for me, like I don't know. We had a, for y'all that don't know, we had a pre-screening chat, and when we talked about it, like I have girlfriends that I am so worried about for that same reason. It's like, if they tried in love and it didn't work, they just feel like, okay, men are just not this or whatever. You're just looking in the wrong areas, the wrong men, and you're not projecting yourself in the right way. Work on your self worth, right? That's why I was so drawn to this episode because I really want to help my girlfriends.
Yes.
There's been so many times where my girlfriends and family members of my family members that are women that are single have said, "Well, what'd you do? How'd you get in? Like, your first marriage failed, but you within, I think I got married to, let's see, I separated in 2013. By 2018 we were having our marriage, so it was a 5-year span. I did a little dating, then I met him 3 years into it, and then we got married. But my point is, they were like, oh, what's the secret sauce? There is none, ladies. Not necessarily secret sauce, like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to do the work for yourself. I bared myself, like I was like, girl, you have to change because clearly what you were doing before is wrong. And so not just wrong, but I wanted to learn from the mistakes I made in my first marriage. And
Mm,
so, and even in dating, I didn't know how to do it. So,
mm.
yeah. So I was so excited to do this episode. And I hope all you single ladies that are watching are taking notes because listen, I would have wanted this for myself once I found myself single newly, about, yeah, 10 years ago. So there's that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And for your girlfriends, I want to make this distinction for them because quite often they'll hear that and hear, I need to improve myself. I need to change who I really am. And we don't mean that at all. What we mean is change how you're showing up, change what you're
Right.
putting out into the world, change what you're allowing. That's what we mean. Change your actions, not who you are. Change your actions. And when we constantly give people advice of, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, what I really hope they hear is we're only saying that because you have so much more power than you're letting yourself believe. You think that the world is just happening to you, but you actually can drive positive outcomes in your love life. And it's about believing that you have the autonomy to do that. You have the ability to change your outcomes. And that's what we mean. We want to empower our girlfriends to say, hey, like you can show up in a different way and have different outcomes because you are more in control than you realize. We're not trying to, you know, hit them over the head with you need to do this, you need to do that. Like it's with love. I'm sure you feel it as well, Sherry. It's with so
I
much love.
totally do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally. Okay. Well, so let's talk about our next question. You share a story about having a dating roster to meet different emotional needs. What did you learn about self worth from that chapter?
Mm. The self worth component of having the roster, right? And I think we said this a bit earlier. If you don't value who you are, you're going
Mhm.
to allow poor treatment
Right.
because you're going to think that's all that you deserve.
Mhm.
And I was also looking at proving my worth through validating my appearance. So because I didn't believe I was worthy, like physically attractive wise, I was trying to prove that by see all these men that are willing to sleep with me, right? When you remove that need, it completely removes that need for that behavior or for those men to be in your life, which
Mhm.
means you're not taking scraps. You're not going to be grabbing at just whatever he gives you. You know, you're not going to keep seeing that guy that doesn't text you back for 3 days because you know you are worthy of better treatment than that. So not only are you not going to be grabbing for that because you're not looking for the validation, but you're also not going to allow other levels of poor treatment because you know you're worthy of more. So
Yes.
that I didn't see until a long time after. I just thought I was really fun. I just thought I had a lot of guys in my life, and oh, why all these girls think dating's so hard, but I can date so many men. Like, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy, right? And I wasn't actually
Right?
myself. Was I dating them, or was my representative dating them?
Maybe. I'm thinking you was your representative. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that likens me to back in the day when I was in college. I left high school. Um, so I left high school. I lived in a very small southern town in the United States where it was no diversity. So it was very, you were white and black and not a lot of diversity of the cultures. And it was, my particular school was very limited in black people. So I picked my boy, and this black guy that I thought was good enough, whatever. And like I was a cheerleader, so I had to, in my mind, which was so dumb. But you think like, okay, I'm gonna have to choose you because you play sports, and then like we have to do this whole thing, whatever. It was
Make
so bad. It was the most worst first dating experience anyone could have in their life. We're
oh,
still friends on Facebook. I think he's a great guy. We were just so young and immature. We're both spoiled brats, and it was all those things. And so when I went to college, I was like, you know what? Bump this. I don't want to be anybody's girlfriend. I just want to like do me. I want to date and like not be tied down. Child. Listen, when I say about a representative, okay. So what I want to say about that is, ladies, sometimes you put your alter ego on so that you don't get hurt or whatever, but take it off because you're still gonna get hurt.
Mm.
And it was like such a waste. I mean, I won't say it's a waste of time because I was very young back then. If I was to do that, I could not do that now, as old as immature as I am now. Very immature then. But I think I've noticed in my girlfriends, some of them still do that. And so it's like, ladies, no, be you. Like you said, no representative, be you. And
Mm.
if that guy is not aligning with what you feel, your values, um, what you got going on in your life, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. Mm-mm, don't
Mm.
waste your time. Time is the one thing you don't get back. So there's that. Mm.
Mm. And I think that example that you give, like, it's so, it makes so much sense that you would be flailing about trying on all these different personas because you're still figuring yourself out, right?
Right.
And like, we can be kind to our past selves and say, look, that's what I needed to do. But you're right, like, as we're grown, we can show up differently. And when you say, like, take the time to be, just focus on yourself, I think you said you wanted to just not be dating and just like focus on you. The reason people say to do that, and you did that after your first marriage, the reason people
Mhm.
say to do that is because you kind of need to define what you want in a life and what you want in a life partner before you get into something, because it's so easy to just follow someone down a path that they're taking, and it might be a path you don't even want to be going down, but you don't know that
Mhm.
because you haven't taken the time to figure that out. So when people say, you know, you need to stop and just focus on yourself for a while, what that means is clarify what you want and clarify who you are so you can show up as that. And then you are then drawing in the life that you want, drawing in the partner that you want based on who you've figured out you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get that. Um, all right. So let's talk about when women hear work on yourself before dating. We just talked about that a little bit. But you challenge the idea that we're broken. You do. You say, we're not broken. So unpack that a little bit. Explain that.
Yeah. With the with the approach of like working on yourself before you are dating, like the way I look at it is a relationship is a container, and that can be a great thing because it helps you feel safe and held, but you're also contained in a shape that's
Yeah.
predefined. And that's why you kind of need to know what kind of container you want to get in before you get in, right? Because otherwise you're contained in that container.
Right.
Um, with the wholeness, so if you're if you're showing up in a way that is like, I'm incomplete, I'm not good enough, firstly, we've spoken about how that's going to impact how you show up and what you allow. But if you're then thinking someone is going to complete you, you're really putting them on a pedestal. And as soon as you put people on a pedestal, you've got a few things. You've got a lot of pressure for them, but then you've also got you beneath them if you put them on a pedestal. And as soon as you're beneath them, you deprioritize your needs, you deprioritize your desires. Suddenly, everything is going to be at the cost of you to fulfill what you think that partner needs. And
Right.
and then when you talk about having so much pressure on someone, this is something I figured out, particularly with my pressure on myself around physical standards. If I'm holding these massive standards of perfection to myself, I'm going to get jaded if I think my partner isn't holding themselves to perfect standards as well. So I'm going to show up and be like, oh, you think it's okay to wear that? Oh, you think it's okay to like sleep in on a Saturday instead of go to boot camp? Like, and you don't even realize how judgmental you're being, because I remember like saying to people like, oh, you can't have a height requirement and a hair color requirement. That's just not fair. But then I would turn around and have all these requirements about how people were being as far as laziness and hard work and all of these things, because I was holding myself to all of these standards. So if you feel like someone's going to complete you, you're putting so much pressure on them, and you're also putting them on a pedestal.
Yeah, I agree. So, listen, this next question is huge because I used to feel this way. So, how do we stop measuring our value by whether someone texts back, chooses us, or affirms us? Listen,
Oh,
a lot.
I I managed to summarize this really simply in a reel that I made like a year ago, and it ended up being like one of my more popular reels. Um, how someone chooses to treat you has nothing to do with your worth. It's how much effort they're willing to put in.
Right.
Whether you stay or not is up to you. Whether you decide that how much effort they're putting in is enough is up to you. It has nothing to do with your worth. And it is tricky sometimes to remind ourselves of our worth because we're so self-critical, right? But the best way I find is to surround yourself with people who you know love you. So my dear friends that I've been through the trenches in the workplace with, like they're the friends who've seen me at my lowest, and the fact that they still are so excited to see me. They have so much fun when they're with me. They call me when they need a D&M chat. Like that reminds me that I am lovable. And
Mm-hmm.
if you can remove people's treatment of you from your worth, you can shift that because it's actually not about you. The way people treat you is not about you. Have you
True that.
experienced this as well? Like that niggling feeling in the background where you've kind of questioned yourself based on how someone's treated you? Do you ever come across that?
I have, sure. You know, particularly when I was younger. So when I found myself dating in midlife, 40 plus, before I met my now husband, there were guys that like I would send a text and I needed that validation. I was like, yo, why does it take you a day or 2 days to get back to me? And so, but let me just say this, and ladies, I caution you for this. I would be like, listen, I have three whole teenagers I'm taking care of. I have a very full career, a very full life. If I have the time to text you and you can't text me back, sir,
Mm,
and those were things that when I was younger, I probably would have never challenged any man on because I thought, why should you? Like if he's even interested, you should be grateful. No, ma'am. There's something, and this is what I hope. I hope this for many women that find themselves 40 plus that are dating, that when you get in that level of in life, you got statistically more life behind you than in front. Everything you do is intentional, to include dating, right? So if this man does not have the time in his day, now he sees a text. If
we
he
all
can't, right? And so I taught myself. I learned, like as I went, I kind of learned as I went. Like, I don't need the valid. It wasn't about validation. It was about time. My time is equally as precious as yours. And if I can
mm,
take time out of my busy day to text you, and it takes you 2 days to get back to me, you are not the guy for me. And one of the things, ladies, that I did for myself, and I've taught this to my sister when she found herself in divorce, and my daughter, who, no, she's in a happy relationship now. They both are in happy relationships, but when they weren't, I said, men can be contentious. Like if you ever try to pull back when they have bad behavior because they think that they're entitled to do so, you just should say, at this point in my life, I require.
mm,
And that is not a bad thing. That does not disrespect them as a man. It does not make them a bad man. And most of the men that I have dealt with were not. They were great guys. They were not for me. I would
mm.
just say, sir, name not included, at this point in my life, you know what I mean? At this point in my life, I require that the guy that I'm dealing with thinks enough of me when I take my time out of my day to text you, to text me back in a reasonable amount of time. And when I say reasonable, I mean within the 24-hour span. Okay.
Mm.
At this point in my life, I require a man that shows up for me, a man that on weekends I'm not waiting on pins and needles to see if we're going to do something. We make plans. We're grown.
Mm,
You know what I
mm,
mean? And so there's so many things, unfortunately, that I didn't realize like grown men at their big age still did not really understand. Like I felt like I went back in my college years with these
yeah.
guys I'm dating. These are grown A men, and they had children, and some of them were divorced, had ex-wives, blah blah blah. I'm thinking, you really don't know better than that.
Mm,
But you have to know better for yourself. So the kindest way I could do it, because men can get contentious. They do not like to be rejected, even though women face rejection every freaking day. Um, the best way I could handle it was to say, sir, at this point in my life, I require this. You're a great guy, but I require this. And that
mm.
doesn't make you bad, it just makes you not for me. Period. Hmm.
That's such good advice because it is. It's about matching who works for you. And you said it. It's not like he's a bad guy. It's just that he's
No,
not you and what you need. And you're not telling them what to do when you say that. You just say, if you don't do it, then you're just not in my life.
it's okay. It's
Yeah, because
perfectly
you've
fine.
valued time. I love that. And to quote the famous Oprah, we teach people how to treat us.
That part, I love saying that. I say that to a lot. You're right. You're right. We definitely do. And I'm trying to teach my daughter that. She's 29 years old, and I don't want her to be sitting at 40 something or 50 something and still trying to figure it out.
Mm,
Listen, that's so true. We do. We teach people how to treat us. What you allow will continue. Hmm.
yes.
Mm, that whole part. All right. Let's get back to the interview. I have another question for you. So, what are some irrelevant things women overemphasize when dating, and why do we make those things feel so important?
I don't think you're going to like this one, Sherry.
Whatever I want, say it anyway. Go for it.
Oh, you mentioned your fine man is 6'4".
Yep. Right.
Do you know I have this theory, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. It is not founded in science. I haven't Googled and researched if this is true. This is just my hunch. I
Right.
think women have an affinity for tall guys because we want to feel small in their presence and we want to feel feminine. And that happens when there's a tall man in the room. We feel, oh, we have to look up at them. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's that attachment there. And you could look at that in both perspectives of of, well, yes, we do need to feel like we're back in our feminine a bit more, and that we can relax and let someone else look after things, and that's positive. Or you could also look at it as, is that linking back to how we hoped we had been looked after in our
Yeah.
childhood when we're smaller? Are we sometimes at wanting to rewrite history of how when we were small we weren't treated well? I'm not sure. And these are just some theories that I have in my mind because it's crazy how much we put the height thing on a pedestal. What I will say is absolutely not a negative thing if you love tall men. All I'm saying is rather than prioritizing their physical height, prioritize how you feel in their presence, which,
Mm.
like you said before, you felt that when you met your now husband, how you felt in his presence. And if you can feel safe and looked after and feminine in his presence, that's what we're looking for here, rather than the really easy to spot height thing, which I
No,
think there's value beneath it. It's just we put it against that yeah.
I think for me, yeah, you're right. Ladies, really, I mean, that's very superficial. And my dad's tall, and my like on my dad's side, my family's tall. My first husband was looking me dead in my eye. I'm 5'6", so I mean, he was not. But I think for me, I just wanted something different. Um, but you're right. That doesn't matter. And what made me feel the way I felt, y'all. So like when I walked away from that first meet and greet, because he doesn't even call that our first date. He took me later to another amazing date. After that meet and greet night at Applebee's, which was what random. But was the safeness I felt in telling him about my story, him affirming me and listening and
Yeah.
actively listening, and then, telling me his, and us connecting in a way that no other man gave me that kind of depth. So it really wasn't the height. The height did get first.
I
I'm not
knew
gonna
it
lie.
was a point, but I wanted to say it anyway. Glad to hear your perspective on it because you can see it both ways.
Right, right, right. No, you're so right though. That's the wrong thing to put out there, ladies. He doesn't have to be 6'4" like mine, but I'm just saying. But no, you're right. All the things that are most important are what you said, and that is, I felt safe. I felt safe, seen, and heard, and I loved it. So
Mm.
let's focus on that.
Yes, 100%. Can I ask you a question about the Applebee's? Because when you've said it, you say it like there's something attached to it, which I think there is for some women around, a coffee as a first date or a walk as a first date is problematic. And I want to hear your perspective on this because I think we should be trying to take the pressure off everyone in the room, including ourselves. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be sitting down for 3 hours and with someone at an expensive meal and then feeling like you owe them in
You
some
owe
way.
them.
Don't
Mhm.
want to be in the room. I'd like to hear your take on this because some women are very much like, well, if we're high value women, then we don't accept coffee dates and things like that. What's your take?
So my take is, so with him, it was his idea. He said, I will, because we lived at the time, we lived about an hour and change away from each other.
Oh wow.
And yeah. And so he's like, I'm going to come to you. And he
Oh,
was
lovely.
like, yeah, which was huge because most of the other guys were like, hey, can you come to me? And oh, by the way, can you like give me some gas money? And
Gosh.
listen, ladies, I'm just telling you, when I say horror stories, I mean, like, they were not guys, they were, some of them just did not have their life together. And at our big age, I was like, wow, I was so clueless. But he was like, listen, I'll come to you. Um, what do you think? And you have to understand at that time, y'all, I had, like I said, the three teens, the husband left, we had this lifestyle. He left with his money. So I was trying to hold it down by myself. So
Yeah.
money was like not plentiful, though I made a good salary. But when you go from 2 to 1, it's a lot.
And we're
And
three.
right. So I was like, okay, well, if you're gonna come down here, like come to the nearest town and let's just do Applebee's, because I didn't want to invest much. And you're right, because from a women's perspective, had we sat down to, because I live near the beach, honey. There's
Oh,
rich people everywhere around me. So I could have picked some of the best 5 stars, baby. They're everywhere. But I didn't want to because I was like, I don't know if I'll like, I rarely even read his messages, but what's so funny is I barely read them. I My life
yeah.
was so crazy. I was like, okay, he says he's 6'4", his pictures are okay, da, 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 da. You know what I mean? And he was like, well, where do you want to go? I was like, all right, we'll just do Applebee's because I got to take my son to a party that's up the street anyway. Let's just try it.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah.
my mindset was so not focused, which sometimes, like I've told many of my girlfriends, when you're not looking, that's when you find it. I
Mhm.
was looking, but I was so busy. I was trying to maintain my children's lifestyles, and I was trying to like come up in my own career. So I was focused on my career, and I was trying to make sure they were good. And the ex-husband, we hadn't even got the 20 child support. He was doing what he wanted to do. He was still in and out, and I was just like, ah, it was a lot.
Yes.
It was a lot. But so I said Apple. I chose Applebee's
Oh,
because it
good.
wasn't a commitment. It was like, if I can't stand the man, at least he can't say that, I used him or
Women
whatever.
want- Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because he was just like, Applebee's. I was like, yeah, Applebee's. Applebee's it is. Because I felt like that was like a way to try it on and not feel um bad if he didn't, because I have gone on dates, and honest to God, I went on a date with a guy long before my husband, and what he presented himself online when I went there, even the server was like, girl. And I went and sat down. I mean, it was
Not for you.
bad.
Not for
Yeah, it was
you.
so bad. But I mean, look, I am a good sport. Rarely will I meet a person that I can't have a. I'm sure you know that now, Sarah. It's rare I'll meet a person that I can't have a conversation with or vibe with in some way. At the least I'll have a meal and a conversation. I'm just not that girl. Like I'm not hard to
Be around. Yeah.
vibe with, right? But I know
Yeah.
what I want. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
and I think like you approach it with curiosity. You don't judge people from the first look. And you go, okay,
Yeah.
let's find out what we can about them. But once you know that they're not your person or they're not your vibe, then you don't want to feel like you've locked yourself into this 3 hour or this expensive thing and feel this attachment or
I
any
was so
particular
bad.
about it. And I think the way you showed up to that date when you said you had so much going on and you were so busy, when our cup is full, right, we're not searching for something to grab onto. We're not searching for, oh, but I've got this message back from them and I need, which means if you showed up to that date and you were like, about him, he would have fallen away, not taken up time in your life, and you go on, which is great, right? Which means when you're showing up in that way, the only people that are going to stay in your orbit are the ones that align with you. That's just another reason why, if we're focusing on what we're doing, it raises the bar of who can stay in our life because we have enough going on. Like you said, we have our time is so valuable and scarce. It's like, I'm not going to give it away just to anybody. Like, it raises the bar of who you allow to stay in your circle. I think that's so great how things came together for you.
Yeah. No, I mean it to me, um, I tell people about it and honestly, it is one of those the start of a beautiful love story. I he wasn't looking at that time was I was like so focused on my children. I mean, before I was like I had gone on dates and I had talked to guys on the phone and messaging on the apps or whatever, hoping. Um, weird things when men would say when they talk to you for a couple times, like, "Oh, you're my woman. I'm gonna marry you." Which, y'all, that ain't true.
Yeah.
Um, it's not. It's not. If they ever come to you that quick, like, red flag.
Mm.
But when you have been out of the game for a long time, you're like, "Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's just see how this works." Doesn't work.
Mm.
By the time I got to my husband, I was worn out. I was tired. I was trying to get my kids together. My daughter's about to graduate high school. It's getting ready for college. I really didn't have time. And
Mm.
though I really desired to have that person, I wasn't willing to go through the whole emotional ups and downs and all that. It's like either you are or you aren't. And really, I don't care either way. Like at the
Mm.
very least, I was going to have a meal and a conversation because I can talk. Like I said, I can get with anybody, child. I can talk to anybody. I am that girl. But it just came together, and I don't know all of y'all out there if y'all are believers or whatever, but I prayed about it because it had started to get to the point where I was like, I know um who I am, and I know that I'm better than this. And like, why am
Mm.
I attracted to these guys? Like, what is there something wrong with me? And
Mm.
it just came to me like you need to slow it down a little bit. You slow down, and you need to really be intentional because I don't think in the beginning I was intentional. I was more like I just want a grown man to talk to and hang out with. I didn't know how to do it, and so being when you say dating with intention, it is a real thing. That
Mm.
means everybody can't take you out, ladies. Everybody can't. Mm-mm. So
Yeah,
yeah,
understand yourself. Oh, that's interesting. I'm not. When you say you pray about it, because I'm not of faith, but I look at it from a similar perspective, and or maybe I'll ask you this question and see if you agree.
okay.
I am very much behind like the law of attraction and like what you put out there is what you receive and that
Mhm.
kind of mindset. And I think you get what you focus on,
Right.
and I think when you're praying about it, you're focusing on what you want, bring
Yeah.
me this love, this joy. And so often we get trapped in focusing on what we don't have, or focusing on the loneliness, or focusing on the problems. And then we just kind of keep getting the problems, right? Do you
Yeah.
think when you when you're when you pray for that love in your life, do you think, like, how does that go? Do you put out there what you're after? Like, is that how you say, hey, bring this into my life?
Absolutely. So, particularly, I will tell you the story. My sister in law told me that when she met my brother, she wrote a very specific letter to God where she was extremely specific, right? And she's like, Sherry, I think you need to do that. And I was like, okay. So I did that, right? After I did that letter to God, it was 2 weeks. And we have this thing about July 4th, both me and my husband. And I'll explain that in a second. But I met him the weekend after the 4th of July. So we're coming up on like the time we met, which is so cool. But yes. And so what I will say that if you're not even a believer, but I will say, like in any religion or anything, it's the thing where biblically we have you reap what you sow, you what you put out there you get back, blah 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 blah, right? um I think every religion or non-religion has a thing about the universe. What you put out there you get back. When I got to
Yeah.
the point, right, when I got to the point where I was very very tired, I was like, okay, clearly I need to be very specific. I need to ask for what I want, and I need to
Mm,
know what I want. I need to take time to really think about, what do you want. You're just kind of floundering out here, like, and you're not even that girl. You don't have that kind of time. You
mm,
are that. So you need to reel it in and figure out, what exactly do you want. And when I did, there were things that were really important to me. And yeah, the 6 foot 4 thing was great. But for me, really the things were like things like love of family, um, our value system, intellect. I love good conversation. I'm a conversationalist, clearly. Um, right. But I like to laugh. I like someone that makes me laugh. There were things that I needed, you know what I mean? And so I just wrote them all down and I prayed about it, and then I literally put the letter in my Bible. Y'all, this is not ritualistic. So I'm not saying go do what I did, put the letter in your Bible and you're gonna get your man. What I'm saying is, like you said, if you are very specific about you want, and you put that out there and you emanate that, right? It could come to you, because now you're
mm,
not really looking for anything other than that. And so I agree with you, Sarah. I am a believer, I'm a Christ follower, but this is speaking to people that aren't. Look, even if you're not, you can be real specific about what you want. You can speak it. There's very much power. Like they say, affirmations. I mean, like we could put it in like 12 different types of things, but that's a real, real, real thing. So
yeah.
when you're ready, yeah. Don't you agree?
I think what I'm hearing from what you're saying is you were very intentional about what you
Mm-hmm.
wanted, clear about what you wanted. And
Yeah.
then when you are clear, you have the clarity and the standard, maybe
Yeah.
the clarity and the courage to then
Mhm.
say no to things that aren't that,
That's
which
it.
if you're not clear, you'll keep wasting your own time. And you just said, you ain't got the time for that. Like, your time is valuable. Once you value your time and get intentional, it sounds like that's the trick. We've solved it. We've
We
solved it.
have, y'all.
And valuing your time. Okay. Well, maybe not exactly like solved it, but yes, I think those are big takeaways.
Huge, 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 huge takeaways. All right, I do want to ask you this question, because I thought this was like, I want to know what your take is on this. You've spoken about getting masculine, feminine energy wrong in dating. What what does that
Mm.
mean? Like, unpack that for me, because I really want to know.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I said before about how we are in this mindset in this world of, if you want something, you need to go after it. You need to do something. You need to take action. And that's very much a masculine way of doing things. And the way the world is, like, women are now more in the workplace. We're really reducing gender roles, and there's a lot of positives from those things. What also happens is women then are encouraged to show up in masculine ways, because it
Mm,
starts in the workplace, right? Of
hmm.
of doing. And I think from my research and my experience, a lot of men do get satisfaction from achieving things and from doing things. And so that works for them. And a lot of women get satisfaction from connection. And if you're not getting connection from the doing, you think there's something wrong. You're like, oh, I need to do more and change myself. And really it's about the yin and yang of the feminine and masculine, because for a man to show up in his masculine, he needs the space to do that. And that requires us to step back. And you hear it all the time of, oh, men are uncomfortable around women who earn money, or uncomfortable around high achievers, right?
Yes.
And I think I'm not going to say I know everything about this, but I think it's that they need the space to step into their masculine, and we need to give them that space, because when you stop trying to make something happen and you start allowing and receiving, then you're leaning more into your feminine of flow and letting things unfold as they need to, and not trying to control them. And a key example, and this will probably be a good gauge for a lot of women that are listening. If you are resistant to a man carrying your luggage, then you're probably a bit resistant to your femininity around that man. And it doesn't mean you can't do it. It doesn't mean you can't lift it yourself. You can. You lift at the gym. I get it. It doesn't mean you need that man or you're not going to be able to survive. But when you allow men to show up for you, they actually get satisfaction from that. We need to allow them to show up in a way that they want to show up as well. And if you see that as a positive, that he actually wants to be the hero, he wants to look strong, he wants to do something for me, like, let him do something for you. And that took me a long time to realize, because I've got an older brother. I work in logistics, like supply chain and trucking, right? So it's like my mindset is like, I got to get in and do the thing.
Yeah.
And not necessarily allow men to take care of things for me.
Ooh, I like that. You know what? That is so poignant, because, like, funny that you say it, because in all my other relationships until my current husband, listen, I did all the things. I was like, no, I got this. No, I'm a boss. I'm that, and when I met him, I felt safe enough to tap into myself. My mom used to always say, Sherry, find your softer side. And I'm like, I don't got one. I actually do. I do. But I had to be around the right man to trust him. You know what I mean? Like, this man, we go out to eat, and when I have leftovers, we get the to-go box, and he puts the food in there for me. I would never. It was so funny, because we went out with a group of my girlfriends from college, and I had leftovers, and when he was putting in the box, they were all like, because listen, that is not, no ma'am, I'm a boss. I do me. But my husband just gives off this safe space that I lean into it. And ladies, there's nothing wrong with that. I am so happy that I got the chance to even know that side of myself, because she was always in there and she wanted it. She wanted it. I had it as a little girl from my dad, but once I got out there and started dating, no man could give me that. So I just put a wall up, and I was like, I'll just do it for myself.
Yeah, it can feel safer to just look after things yourself. You can feel easier to be around if you don't need anything from someone.
That's right.
And
that's right.
There's so much that it plays into. And I hate to say it, but sometimes the feminine is seen as the beta in the situation. So you want to be in charge. You want to be the boss. And you might also be trying to prove you're the boss. But if you think proving you're the boss requires you to carry luggage, it does not. You are a boss. You don't need to prove it to anyone.
That's true. That's true. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, I had issues, but I think I was trying to assert myself in a way that I didn't need to. I just, yeah, I don't know, ladies. But I will tell you, if that's your thing, when you get with the right man, let that down, and let it down now. Like, you don't have to do that. It's okay, to tap in. Everybody's like soft girl era now. That's like a thing. And like, my mom has been telling me that for years. And I was like, ma'am, I don't have that. But I actually did. I did, and it feels good. So, though we can be bosses and we can be highly successful, it's okay. Tap into your feminine side and let that man lead a little bit. Let him, you know what I mean? It's okay. It's okay. When you have the right one that leads you properly. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it does come back to trust. Like you said before, you need to be able to trust
Totally,
them.
totally, 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 totally.
And that's why it's so important to only put in as much as you're willing to at the time. And, you don't need to give yourself away too quickly. Like, it's not that men need to earn trust, but they want to show up, and then allow them to show you that they can provide, or they can provide that safe space for you. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. All right. So I have another question for you. So let's do this for the women listening who's exhausted, discouraged, and wondering if she'll ever be truly seen. What would you say to her, Sarah?
Mm. Oh, that place where Sherry was, where she was exhausted. Maybe you weren't wondering if you'd ever be seen because you were too busy, girl. But
That part.
I, yeah, when you believe that you're lovable, then you can show up in a way that holds that standard, and you can attract that into your life. You can attract love into your life. So I want to say you are lovable as you are. And the way to believe that, because sometimes we go, yeah, yeah, you're just saying that. But the way to believe that is, if your child came into the world, and you would know this, Sherry, you love them as soon as they enter the world. You're not waiting for them to do anything or be anything before you love them. You are lovable as you are. And think about some of your imperfectly perfect friends who you cherish and adore. You know they're not perfect, but you love them, and you love them because of all their quirks and their weirdness. Like, you are lovable as you are. And
Yes.
by focusing on the love in your life, the friends who love you, the the friends who you love, then it goes back to what you said with your faith. Like, you're focusing on the good, you're focusing on what you want, and you get what you focus on. So focus on what you want.
Love that. Love that. All right, ladies. Okay. Now, Sarah, I need to know. Okay. She's got a book coming out. Y'all, we need to know like where we can get the book. When is it coming out, honey? We need to read that book. So tell us about the
Yes.
book, when it's coming out, and all the good things.
Oh, thank you. Here, I have a copy here. I actually need to share one with you. Yeah, yeah. So you can get this on Amazon. It's launching. Well, you can get it now. You can get it on Amazon now. I'm doing an official launch on the 12th, but it is available on Amazon. If you're not an Amazon lover, you can grab it on Booktopia. It's on most of the major platforms. You can request it through your bookstore if you want to go to a brick and mortar, but it's definitely available to order online. You can get it as a Kindle ebook version as well. So
Nice. Okay.
that's all there. I am looking to record an audio book, but I don't know the date
Oh, that's
because
so
that's how I
cool.
consume media, right? Because I like podcasts. I love listening to things. So that's on
Yes,
the
I
card.
do.
Date. So yeah.
Oh, that would be so great. Okay, awesome, 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 lady. So now you know, look out for her book. And where can we find you? We talked about your socials. So you're on Instagram at Sarah Self Worth, and I have that in the banner, guys. And then on Facebook at Sarah Van Eck Author. Um, anything else you got going on? Any like book signings? Anything that we can um talk about that we can help support you?
Yes, I'm based on the Gold Coast in Australia, and I've got a book launch coming up on the 12th of July on the Gold Coast. So if you are around my neck of the woods, if you're a listener from Queensland in the Gold Coast, then absolutely come along to that. That's 12th of July. I'd love to see people there. I really want to connect with women and hear how this book is going to help, and hear their stories. I really want to share that more. I do have another speaking engagement coming up in August, the 2nd of August, but again, Gold Coast. So right now I'm sharing the message here. I am looking to share it interstate down in Sydney in Australia, hopefully in August, but I'm still just sussing out my logistics on that one. But yeah, follow along, and please shoot me a message if you read this book and something resonates with you. I would really love it. This is my first book. I really wanted to express myself, but so much more than that, I really want to connect with people and help other women. So if you can share a message with me, or you can even leave a review on Goodreads or Amazon, like that means the world to me, because I want to share this with more people. And the more we talk about it, the more we share it, the more we rate it, the more the readers that need it can find it. So yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we've really connected over this. And I think that's a
Awesome.
big part of why you have this podcast, right? Because you want to connect.
Yes, yes, totally. I mean, I honestly, y'all, when I met Sarah on the meet and greet, I was so excited. I usually, when I'm going to have a potential guest, I always want to do a screening kind of interview. It's supposed to be like 15 minutes. Me and Sarah were so locked in. I was like, "Oh, what about this? What do you think about this?" And she was like, "Okay, well, this, that, the third." But you know what I mean? Like, I was so enthralled, and I was just completely in love with her from the beginning. She is great. Yes, listen, this is why I love what I do, because I get a chance to interface with so many dynamic women, and their platforms are serving us lovely, y'all. And you need to get that book. Listen, I wish I'd have had it when I found myself newly dating at 40, 41 years. Well, I really didn't start until about 41ish, 42. But y'all, listen, she knows her stuff. She's got a calm presence about her, a lot of wisdom, and the book is going to be great. And Sarah, thank you so much for gracing my show with your presence, because this is a major need for our listeners out there, our audience. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I so appreciate the connection and the discussion and just connecting with you and hearing your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So there you have it. So now we have given you the whole thing on getting back out there, dating tips, learning how to start with you. Right? It starts with you. Building your self worth so that you will not attract the things that you don't want. You have to fix that inside yourself first. Sarah's right, and for further information, please make sure you get her book once again, and it drops on
Twelve.
July 12th. Get the book on July 12th, Amazon. And listen, we have given you the gems. Pick them up, write the notes, do the things. And as I always say, honey, continue to feed your health, build your wealth, and walk in power. Perspectives with Sherry is all about that. And we love you, Sarah. And we are expecting your book to do big, big things. So I'm going to put in I'm pinning in the comments about the book again. And if audio podcast is your thing, if you're listening to us on audio podcast, it'll be in the show notes. So there you have it, guys. So thank you so much. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Again, if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe, like, share with a sister, girlfriend, and please put in the comments, what are your experiences with dating? What have you learned over the time? Let us know. Talk to us and we talk back. So thank you guys as always. All right. Sarah, last words?
You are lovable.
That's right. That's right. All right. You are lovable, ladies. Remember that. All right, ladies, good night. Thank you so much.